Welcome to Behind the BNB podcast, where we go beyond the bookings and take you inside the real stories, strategies, and struggles behind every Airbnb success. I'm your host, Steph Murphy, and each week we will sit down with real hosts, industry experts, and inspiring guests to uncover what really goes on behind the scenes of short-term rentals. Whether you're just getting started, scaling your property portfolio, or simply love a good story, you'll find practical tips, honest conversations, and a few laughs along the way. So grab a cup of coffee, settle in, and let's go behind the BNB. Hi guys, and welcome to another episode of Behind the BNB, where we hear from real hosts with real stories who are seeing real results in their businesses. I'm so excited to have with me today on the show, Jakub from Yes Stays. Jakub, welcome to the show.
Hi, Stephanie. Thanks for having me.
You're so welcome. It's so good to finally get you on here. Special sort of or interesting situation for you. You're based in Poland.
Yeah,
correct?
yeah, that's right.
And you have a portfolio that you manage from Poland, and the portfolio is in Birmingham.
Birmingham, UK, West Midlands, and we are scaling up, expanding all across the UK. So, you know, it's been quite a lot of work that we had to put into making this work. But you know, we finally made it happen, and so you know, we can be fully remote and managing a portfolio and also acquiring properties remotely as well. So
yeah, I think it's a really unique business model, that I do get quite a few questions about it. But before we dive into that, who is Jakub? So tell me a little bit about yourself, your background, and what you did before you came into this Airbnb space.
So I went into the short-term rental industry about 5 years ago. It was actually through a friend of mine from university who opened a short-term rental management company in Birmingham. And you know, after some time of running the business, he was looking to expand his team, and I was lucky enough to join his team and help him to manage his properties. And I did this for about 3 years, and within the first 2 years, his company went from like 16 to 50 listings, and we were able to manage it with just 3 people. And it was mainly because I was able to automate the business to such an extent that we didn't really need too much staff to manage the whole portfolio. So, you know, like using automation. We didn't have AI back then, but like the software automations, guest experience software, obviously a PMS, and some extra things like a Ring Central. Well, maybe I shouldn't say promotion, you know, but like, you know, a direct landline for that everyone could answer a phone call if a guest rings. So yeah, that was my initial experience. And after working for 3 years for him, I then opened my own short-term rental company because I wanted the freedom and I wanted to do the business my way rather than someone else's way. So we've been running for 2 years now, and yeah, as I said at the beginning, as I think you introduced me at the beginning, I currently managing a portfolio in Birmingham. I live in Poland, and yeah, within the first year of opening Yes Days, we went from 0 to 30 listings. And now we scaled back a little bit because we had some problems with one block in Birmingham, Digbeth. So we had to give these flats away. But yeah, I graduated from Aston University in Birmingham, and originally Polish. Grew up in the UK with my family. We moved there when I was very young. So yeah, that's a little bit about me.
How old were you when you moved to the UK?
I think I was about 12. So we moved when I was in year 7, and we moved a lot back and forth between Poland and England. And I always had this, you know, feeling that, you know, one day I'm gonna move back home. So, you know, I finally made it come true. And I'm 30 now, so it's been probably more than half of my life I've spent in the UK.
And so you went to Aston University, and what did you study again?
So I studied international business and management.
That's a handy degree to have, considering you run your own business now.
Yeah. So I went this direction.
So it's a really interesting story. You know, you said you met your friend. Was that at uni?
Yeah, so I met him at uni. He was
Yeah.
actually he created this entrepreneur community, and we got to know each other through there because he was, I believe, 1 year or 2 years ahead of me at university. So we then, during final year, he was already graduated. I was in my final year, and we bumped into each other in this entrepreneur community startup kind
Mm,
of incubator that Aston University
mm.
had. They called B Scene.
That's pretty cool.
So yeah, B Scene is like an organization that helps students to grow their businesses, and they offer free working space, and also you can be a mentor later on. So it's
It's a
a
good
free
program to
organization.
have in
Yeah,
the university.
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I haven't heard of anything like that existing before. Like, so I mean, entrepreneurs. There's a lot more entrepreneurs these days, aren't there?
I think so. It takes a lot. I think to open your business. I think the biggest step the biggest challenge in opening your business, I believe, is actually opening your business and
Mm-hmm.
believing that you can do it. Once it's
Yeah.
rolling, once you get your first client, first property, first sale, then you're off, right?
Yeah.
Then you can
I
just
think it's really interesting. You know, you obviously worked with this friend of yours, like you said, for 3 years. And when you started working with him, and was it a company that he worked for, or he worked for
yeah. So he partnered up with a large property investor in Birmingham. So they did a joint venture on this company, and they've partnered up to do many more businesses. They are doing quite big investments at the moment as well. So yeah, they are doing really well, and yeah, I'm thankful that I had the opportunity to work with them, and
Yeah, that's cool.
yeah.
And you worked specifically on the short-term rental side as well, didn't you?
Yeah, so I was mainly focusing on short-term rental, and I was the manager for the Airbnbs and the listings that they had. But I was also doing other bits like helping guests, doing some maintenance as well, and you name it,
All the operational side of things.
everything that goes into an Airbnb business. Then I was you know in charge as well, if, in in most of the aspects. So that's how I learned the whole operations of the business, and then I was able to um, understand it and then automate and outsource as much of that as possible.
Did you do all the research for all the automation and systems, or was that something that they kind of had in place
Yeah,
already?
so yeah, I did a majority of the research because when I joined his company, for example, normally we have the check-in instructions sent automatically in our company once the guest will fill in the information and then maybe secure the security deposit, maybe put in their photo ID and a picture of their face as well, and then they would get an automated message with the check-in instructions. Whereas like at the beginning, 5 years ago, when I joined the company, they had already 16 listings, and I would have to send the check-in instructions manually by hand every morning.
Oh my goodness, no.
So I would have to wake up and
That's
then make sure
crazy.
that everyone has, who's checking in, see if there is last minute bookings, and then make sure I copy and paste the right code. So then the human error was also like an option there.
Yeah.
So to avoid human error and to make things more just automated, I implemented the
Yeah.
software that helped us with the guest verification and so on. And also just add,
That's so good. You got sick of doing it manually. You're like, there's got to be a better way than this right now. And you were able to figure that one out.
yeah, or just like for
That's good.
example, the virtual landline is a great alternative for just to instead of having a phone, like a mobile phone live all the time, because you can set work hours, office hours. So let's just say if someone calls maybe after 10 p.m. when you're sleeping, they would go to a voicemail saying, if your call is an emergency, please press 1. If not, then, please call us on, 9 a.m. the following day. And this significantly reduced the amount of phone calls I would receive, past midnight. Because, before I introduced the software, we would get, I don't know, maybe 1 or 2 calls a week, about, 2, 3 in the morning saying, oh, how do I get in? The code is not working. So giving a little bit more responsibility to the guest to actually, all the instructions are there and everything is correct. You just have to follow the instructions. It really helped.
So over the course of 3 years, it's very impressive that you went from 16 properties to 50. And then what made you decide to kind of finish up there and then start your own thing?
Well, it was mainly the freedom I was after. So, like, for example, I didn't like the fact that I have to ask if I can go on a holiday, for example. So, like, because there could be other things I would have to do, other things I would have to cover. So now I'm on my own schedule and, I've got the freedom. If I want to go somewhere, I don't have to ask for permission if I can go somewhere. Also, I'm not restricted financially to how much money I can make. So I can make as much money as I want, or I am willing to put, the effort into. That's another big aspect of that. And then again, freedom, as I mentioned before, not just for traveling, but also to spend time with my family and with friends and just have more wholesome life rather than, being someone's employee at the end of the day, right?
Yeah. I mean, that's what everybody wants and desires, right? But not everyone can get that because it's not that easy. So are you able to share? So coming out of that, what did you do after finishing up in that job? Did you have like a period of you working out what you were going to do, like setting up your business name, setting up the company? Were you like just ready? Like as soon as you finished, you went straight into setting up your own business? And mind you, you had no properties as well, right?
Yeah, it's a great question actually, because
Yeah.
we normally what should have been done probably is set up the business before you quit, get some properties, on the side, so the boss doesn't find out. But what happened in my situation was that I kind of did it slightly differently, and we part ways with my boss, and I had no job. I had no properties. I had no backup. I had about 10 grand in savings, and I was like, okay, this is it. Like, I just told myself, like, during my, I don't know, maybe, planning, I just said to myself, I'm not getting another job. Like, no matter what happens, like, I'm not going back to employment. So I just dedicated like all the effort I could into opening this business. And I just did a lot of like going to physical property events, and meeting landlords and telling landlords what I already know. And because I already had experience and I worked for people with experience, and a lot of landlords would know who I worked for, they would be more inclined to trust me. And yeah, so I kind of burned through my savings in the first maybe 2 months, because I ended up going to a Gestival. It's a conference that Gesti is hosting. And
yeah, so this is a very interesting story. So first of all, Guesty, for those people who don't know, do you want to explain what Guesty is as a company
sure, so
and what they do?
Guesty is a property management software, which other people will call it a channel manager. So basically, it's a software that's the brain of your business. All of the bookings that you have will be coming into Guesty, and you will be able to see the analytics, the financials, the bookings, the guest communication. You can set up everything that you can physically think of in Guesty. You will give access to Guesty to your cleaners, your VAs, anyone, so anyone can see what's happening within your business. So
Brilliant.
yeah.
Great explanation. So you went along to a Guesty event, which was based in Tel Aviv. Is that right?
Yeah, back then that was
Yeah.
they hosted this big event in Tel Aviv, and it was, I think that was about
This was 20. Yeah. What year was that? That was a while ago.
2022
Okay.
maybe. Yeah, I think so, something like this.
Yeah.
And it was a slight large proportion of my savings, but I still ended up going, and because I thought, I'm also a big believer of mindset. So, as much as you can have experience in doing something and getting kind of inspiration from others that done a lot bigger things than you, is in my opinion crucial. So what I only knew before going to Guestival is that 50 properties, 50 listings on Airbnb, that's big, that in my opinion. That, for me, that was the only thing I knew. I didn't know anyone else who had more than 50. And then I went to Guestival and I met people that have over 100 listings, over 500 listings, over 1,000 listings, over 10,000 listings. And then it just got me thinking, like, okay, if these guys have so many, where do I want to position myself? Not even like, is it possible to get 10, to get 100? The question was more like, do I even want 100? Because that's, or do I want 1,000? How, like, where do I want to be? Where do I want to position myself? So that was a big inspiration. And then I met some very interesting people that I'm still kind of friends with to this day. And then, of course, moving on a year ahead after, well, that wasn't even a year. It was, I believe, about 8 months into starting my business. I found James Murphy and, your team, GPWN, on Instagram. And with the same mindset, because I've already made some, made some profit from my properties that I've already established. And
how many did you have at this point, by the way, before you discovered
so I had three
our
properties then when I joined the program, but I was in the process of taking a block of 13 studios in Stoke-on-Trent, and I found James online. And after being in at Guestival and knowing that there are people out there who do a lot and they have a lot of experience and knowledge, I just thought to myself, I think it would be worth getting some advice from someone that has a lot more experience than me and have the safety net that I can fall back on this big project, which was the 13 studios. And I don't regret signing up because obviously I've
That's
learned a
good to hear.
lot. Yeah, no, of course. I mean, the kind of success story I always tell everyone when, asked about the program and James Murphy is when I actually joined, I was onboarding the block of 13 studios. That's from having it completely flush, like white walls and en suites, to designing it with like kitchenettes and furnishing it, interior design, and then moving forward to photography, then putting everything online. And from my experience, I thought I'm doing a great job, and to some extent I was. However, I put the property online. We are live. 2 weeks go by, 0 bookings at all. Like, not a single booking. So I'm just thinking to myself, like, this is not looking good for me, and also not for the
Not a
landlord.
good start. Yeah.
So I'm just thinking, what can I do? So I joined James's call, and we had a chat regarding my situation. He gave me some advice, and then he also suggested to speak to another member of the team who deals with listing optimization. And I optimized my listing. I changed the pricing strategy that James recommended, and 2 weeks went by after implementing these changes, and I was 80% booked. across all 13
Oh,
units. So,
wow.
and then that was, to me, that was just like a game changer, because then I knew that if there is any issues I have, then I can just ask questions. And because, you guys have, and James and everyone else has so much knowledge and experience, I was just able to just solve any of the problems.
Yeah. Oh, I'm so glad to hear that. And in terms of optimizing those listings, can you share what else you did apart from the pricing strategy and
Yeah, 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 of
changing
course.
the price
So
until you
some of the things are like amending the title. So in your title, for example, on Airbnb, um, I was advised that it has to include the location. Um,
Mm.
so rather than putting a lovely name like, stunning, um, brand new
like
property
everyone else.
house in, that's it, or like something
Yeah.
cool, like a film title, you should put things that people can relate to, keywords like, near the motorway, parking for 6 cars, Netflix, fast Wi-Fi. Rather than making
Mm.
it super pretty, just add keywords in there. In the listing description, we should edit the distance from different locations, add important information to the listing description, and also, for example, on Airbnb, the photos should be organized in a house tour. I think that's what it's called now.
Mm.
Um,
In the way in the order that you upload the photos, that's what you're saying?
so no, so it's kind of like when you go on Airbnb, you will be able to, like, if there is a living room, you will be able to um attach like a living room title to the photos that are accompanied in the living room. Then bedroom
Hmm.
one, then you put bedroom one pictures, and then bedroom two pictures.
So people know what room
Yeah.
is which. Yeah, that's good.
And then of course with like James's advice on the pricing, that was just dropping that price daily by a
Mm.
fraction, so maybe like by 5% every day until we start getting bookings. And then once we start getting bookings, hold this price for until I'm happy with the occupancy, and then try to increase the price a little bit
Mm.
to see when we actually decreasing the amount of bookings that are coming in. And then so
Mm.
that's kind of the biting point that he mentioned about.
Yeah. And so that was specifically for those 13 studios in Stoke-on-Trent. Is that right?
Yeah, so that was the kind of emergency strategy for Stoke-on-Trent. Yeah.
Mm. And how is the portfolio doing now? How is it performing?
Yeah, the portfolio is performing well. We
And
constantly acquiring new properties. So last week we've acquired a four-bed house in Birmingham,
yeah,
and another four-bed house that's going to be acquired probably about this month. And we just
that's
constantly
great.
looking to expand. I've just been in the talks with a developer last week to acquire a large kind of portfolio of properties of 56 apartments in Birmingham,
Whoa, that
in
is major.
central Birmingham. So we're
Wow.
not sure if we're gonna do like 100% Airbnb. We might open a lettings agency to manage some of them on as single lets. I know this is slightly off topic of this podcast, but just to mix
No, it's
things
fine.
up.
Do
Yeah,
share. Yeah.
yeah. Because obviously we need to mix things up. Don't put all the eggs in one basket. So by
Yep.
doing some Airbnb, some long-term let, we are minimizing the risk of potential kind of, yeah, just effect on the business.
That's it. I'm glad you're sharing that because, yeah, people will be like, oh my gosh, are you going to manage all 56 as Airbnbs? No. Here's a little bit of wisdom for you. Maybe 50% and then 50%. Because with the longer term rentals, I mean, you can explain why, like, you're doing that specifically, right? When you're looking at your profit and loss and weighing that up. Because how long have you been running your own portfolio now? It's been
Just over
two,
2 years now.
just over 2 years. And, there's the low seasons and then there's the high seasons. And this, it fluctuates. So sometimes it is good to consider some other strategies, especially if you've got a number of properties within your portfolio. So yeah,
And
I
then
think.
also, sometimes you will get like, not often, but you do get COVID, and you do get
Mm,
some restrictions sometimes. So, to make sure you're not as affected as you could be, then you do create a plan B. So that would be the
hmm
long term lets, and also
Yeah.
because like in the UK especially, um, the rental prices went up by probably 20-30% over the past 2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
It's becoming so yeah, it's becoming less profitable to do your Airbnb. To let's just say if you want to do a 1 bed or 2 bed flat in Birmingham, the the difference in profit between a long-term let and a Airbnb has definitely decreased than it was 2 years ago. But
Just
that's
because of
just
these
the yeah,
rental
that's the
heights.
findings.
Yeah.
But overall,
Mm.
yeah, that's definitely where we want to be, and maybe we
Mm.
also are looking for larger properties at the moment.
I was gonna allude to that because you said you've got two four-bedroom houses in
Yeah,
the pipeline currently, and I was gonna say, okay, so you've gone from studios to four-bed houses, so you can speak to as to why you're doing that now as well.
yeah, of course. So it's very simple logic because let's just say you have a studio and the studio will bring you maybe £1,500 in revenue, but you still get a reservation that you have to manage. Whereas if you have a 6 bedroom house, you may make maybe 6,000 or £7,000 in revenue, yet you still have just one reservation to manage. So you're lowering the amount of work you have to do for the amount of money you're getting back from it. So, and then on the other hand, with studios, because the price is lower, like really low, that everyone can afford it, it can attract some bad guests that, maybe up to no good. And,
Mm-hmm.
they will potentially causing more trouble. And
And on that, I was going to say we've got a few. You've got plenty of stories to share as well, but we'll come back to that because I
yeah,
want you
yeah,
to kind of share some of those stories as to another
absolutely.
reason why you've kind of moved on from the
Yeah,
studios. Yeah,
some of the stories I have with the studios, I'll keep them to the end.
yeah. Let's do that. Okay, so you were talking about we can just continue talking about your reason for moving into to houses, like the logic you talked about, the logic of managing a 4 to 6 bedroom house, is the same sort of work, same amount of work as managing a studio, but
Yes.
you're earning so much more.
Yeah, exactly. So that was the main reason why we moved, and also, the guests are much better. They are less problematic, and
Mm.
yeah, that was the main reason why. I know, yeah. Yes, I'm gonna go in back. Well, I'm gonna go into the crazy stories we had at the studios later on. But so we're planning
Mm.
on expanding the portfolio with more larger properties. So like at least 4 bedroom plus. But I'm also looking for villas, halls, manors. Potentially, the ambition is to do castles as well in the future, because
I love that.
yeah,
Yeah.
because
Have you got anything in sight at the moment in terms of castles, or you're
mm,
not there yet? You're not looking yet.
you're not there yet when it comes to
Yeah.
castles. But we had a lovely manor house. It's an 8 bedroom, 7 bathroom, which
Wow.
on paper looks really good. I'm just trying to get my team to pop over there to assess it, and we might be taking this one on as well.
Ooh, okay. Well, what a shame you haven't got it yet. But maybe by the time we release this episode, we can say he got it. And here are the photos of this manor house. So let's see if that all works out and goes through. So speaking of your team on the ground, um, how many staff have you got working for you currently?
Well, I've got one VA full time.
Yeah. Yeah.
She's
VA, by the way, for those who don't know, is a virtual assistant.
Yeah, so she's working full
Yeah.
time in the Philippines. She's a star. Like, I couldn't do it without her. The benefit that I had with for her signing up is that she used to work for Guesty for 5 years before she left
Wow.
on maternity leave with her baby, and then after 1 year, then she took on my role. So I was super lucky to have her, and she's
Yeah,
just
that's for
amazing.
sure.
Next up,
You
I've
struck
got
gold there, especially having someone who worked for Guesty and understanding that system,
yeah.
the platform as well. So that's brilliant.
And then I
Yeah, who
have
else?
another part-time assistant. She's in Birmingham. She's also very good. She's the initial one I hired, and she's also very helpful. She covers the out of office hours that my VA is not working, and she used to handle some of the other kind of aspects of the business as well. And but when it comes to the team on the ground, using contractors, I don't have anyone on payroll. If there is any kind of painting or decorating jobs, I would just reach out to them. Have a trusted bunch of people that can do a really good job with painting and decorating. Like the house we've just acquired, the 4 bedroom house. I asked them if they can paint it, decorate it, do the gardening, and just bring it up to the standard. They did it within 3 days. Everything was up and running. They also bought some extra like wall decorations and made it extra pretty. And then again with like staging the property, doing the setup and everything. We also have like a team that can help with this, and our cleaners are amazing in dressing up the properties. They love it. So I
That's
can't I don't
great.
know how
You've got
many.
you've got your power team, don't you? That you've sure got your power team all set up, able to run things on the ground for you in the UK while you're in Poland, which is amazing.
Yeah, it's definitely easier to expand where my team is right now. Obviously, if it's further than maybe an hour and a half from Birmingham, then I would need to get someone else to help me. But so far, yeah, I've been really lucky.
Yeah. And so is the other houses in Stoke-on-Trent as well, like near the studios or in a like nearby?
No, so the studios, yeah, they are in Stoke-on-Trent. I don't have any other properties over there. I just
Hmm.
prefer
Where's the house?
the 6 bedroom house. The Okay,
Hmm.
so we have a 6 bedroom house in Sutton Coldfield. We've got another 6 bedroom house in Willenhall, that's near Birmingham. All of them are in West Midlands. The new property I took on is in Birmingham, in Yardley. So it's they are scattered around the West Midlands.
So is that a focus? That's a focus area for you right now before you expand? Because like you said, you've got your power team already in that area looking after things for you. So are you going to try to keep expanding in the West Midlands or
Yeah, so
move
the
move
thing,
out?
yeah, definitely expanding in the West Midlands, mainly because I'm just I'm getting a lot of deals in the West Midlands only
Hmm.
because I already know quite a lot of people in West Midlands. So
Yeah.
it's hard to say no to someone that has a good deal. And but I'm also going to, well, so that the deals are coming in, and I'm just saying yes to the ones that are making sense. But obviously, if I will be looking for maybe like a castle or something that's more grand, then it won't matter where it is, because then you build the power team from ground up again. You find the maintenance
Yeah.
people, you
You need
find.
you need almost a whole separate team to manage a castle for you though,
Yeah,
right?
of course. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So maybe the castle will come with the team already. You don't know.
True. Yeah. Well,
So
let's see. Yeah. You never know. I was going to say, or ask rather. because you said you've got so many good deals that come your way, in West Midlands, and it's hard to say no. So for people watching who, they want to start their own Airbnb business, can you give them a little bit of advice or tips on what a good deal looks like, or how you analyze a good deal?
Sure, sure. So, well, initially they're gonna have to look at the rent, how much the rent, depending on what model they do as well. If they do a rent to USA or service accommodation, or
Yeah,
if they do
let's
manage.
talk rental arbitrage.
Okay,
Yeah, like rent to rent. Yeah.
yeah. So rental arbitrage, they will need to find out how much the rent is, what are the utilities, any extra costs. Maybe if they are getting an apartment, there will be service charge and ground rent, probably council tax, electricity. So add all of those together, and then go on. The first step I would do, go on Airbnb. It's free. Go on Airbnb and see if it's maybe a 4-bedroom house in Birmingham. Then go on Airbnb and type in 4-bedroom house in Birmingham. How many people coming? 8, 4 bedrooms, 8 people. And see what comes up, and see how much the nightly rate is. That's as of maybe next week, next month. And if the nightly rate is okay, we can. Would you like to run through an example with real numbers, or shall I just?
I think, yeah. So in your sort of when you go about finding a deal or someone presents something to you, why is it a good deal to you, and sort of how are you running numbers, to know that it is a good deal? So from like scratch and in like really simple basic terms for someone who wants to get their first property,
Yeah.
like what are they looking
So
for?
let's just say I'm just gonna open my calculator here, and let's just say we
Yeah.
have a 4-bed house, and the landlord wants maybe £2,000 for it, rent.
Yeah.
Okay, then we can estimate the
2,000 a month, by the way. This is £2,000 a month. Yep.
yeah. Then we can roughly estimate the utilities for this house to be £500. And these are just rough estimates. So if I'm getting the utility prices wrong, they are just
Let's
an
work on
estimate.
an average.
Yeah,
Yeah, an average for like a property in West
yeah.
Midlands. Yeah.
So that's 2,500 in expenses.
Mm-hmm.
Then if you keep this 2,500 just in mind, and then let's just say we have 4 rooms, and we have 4 contractors staying there. They could be paying maybe £45 a night per contractor per night. So then we do £45 times 4 contractors, we're getting £180 per night. And let's assume we will rent the property at 70% occupancy rate. This is 21 nights in a month. So we do £180 a night times 21 nights. This gives us 2,780. If we deduct the rent and utilities, which was 2,500, we left with £1,280. But you're gonna have to deduct your cleaning fee from this as well. So depending on how many bookings you have, then obviously the cleaning fee will differ. Let's just say you have contractors staying Monday to Friday, so that's going to be 4 cleans already. And then if you sell 2 weekends, because you may sell all 4 weekends and get 100% occupancy, but that's unlikely. So let's just say you sell 2 weekends, that's an extra 2 cleans. So that's going to be 6 cleans in total. And let's just assume,
On average, how much is one clean?
I would say it will be about, let's just say on average, £100. I would say it's going to be less or more. It depends. I just want to say £100. That will be cleaning, linen, and also potentially buying some extra toiletries, maybe buying an extra towel if it got stained, buying an extra wine glass if it got damaged. So let's just say 100. So we do minus £600 because that's 6 cleans times £100, 600. So roughly you would be left with £680 profit. That's just assuming the average nightly rate is £180. But this could be a lot more because you have the weekends, you have events, we have like,
You
for
can charge
example,
more on the weekends.
yeah, for example, so like,
Yeah.
for example, on the 6 bedroom house we have, normally we charge the contractors, I believe, £220 a night. And on the weekends, I think the best deal we had so far, the best booking was £1,470 for 2 nights.
Wow.
So
Was there an event happening or something?
no, it was just a large group of people coming for like a
Ah,
hen do or a party of this kind.
that's great. Yeah, I appreciate you sharing that and breaking down the numbers a little bit, because I think some people are like, well, yeah, how do you actually work that out? So a great place to start is Airbnb. Like you said, it's for free.
Mm.
Jumping on whatever the local real estate platforms are. So in the UK, Rightmove. I kind of forget some of them now because I'm
Zoopla,
in Australia. Zoopla, that's the other one.
yeah,
If you're in Australia, it's realestate.com. What is it? Domain, all of those. So you can, obviously, because we're talking rent to rent, you're looking at rental properties. But also a lot of the time, they say location is everything, especially in Airbnb. You want properties that are near amenities, they're near, certain landmarks, public transport and
yeah.
that sort of thing. So you're looking at all of that as well. Like that just goes without saying, right?
Yeah, of course. And what I forgot to mention before is websites like AirDNA, Airbitix, and other that help you analyze the market in a little bit more detail than just seeing what's here now. So by
Yes.
going on platforms like this, you can assess what is the average occupancy rate in the market in the area. Maybe you're looking at a small city center somewhere in a city anywhere around the world. You might be able to understand the average occupancy rate for potentially maybe a 4 bedroom house, and also the average nightly rate, and move around to different listings and see, okay, if you will have to assess your competitors as well. So if you are opening up your business or opening up your listing in a location where you've never done it before, you're going to have to very closely assess your competitors and how many of them are there, because you will be competing with them. So if your listing is of a very high standard, better than your competitors, then you're guaranteed tenants, guests. Whereas if you are trying to save a little bit and cut corners, and maybe your listing is not up to scratch, maybe you can't, if you're trying to save on getting professional photography done, if you think you can take pictures well, you most likely can't take better pictures than a photographer.
Unless you're a real estate photographer yourself, then
yes.
don't even go there.
So you need
Good
to,
advice.
exactly. So you need to assess your competitors really closely and be better than them, or at least the same level. Because if you're less than
Yeah.
them, like less quality, then you're going to find it difficult to achieve the 70-80% occupancy rates. Regarding the figures I was providing before, on how much money you could be making, you also then can think of, okay, if I'm making £680 per month, what is the minimum amount of money I should be making to cover my bill? So what, after you get your property, or even before you get your property, you can say, okay, the minimum nightly rate I can sell this property for is maybe £150, or maybe that's £100 a night. So the main thing is, because you want to start your business, right? And then you want to start running it. And obviously the property has to be to a very high standard and so on, of course. And you want to make money. But on the other side, you need to be confident that the property can break even. So if you go on Airbnb and see like your competitors are priced maybe at some of them are priced maybe 150, some maybe even 130 pounds, some will be 230 pounds. The question is now, okay, if I undercut everyone, can I break even to save myself from, being in a loss? Because a lot of people, I believe, will be worried. Okay, what about if I get the property, I spend all this money, I sign the lease for 3 years or 5 years, and then I don't make money? Like, of course, it's a big risk, it's a big stress, but you will always make money, in my opinion, because you will never lose the full £2,500 in expenses. You may make a loss, but you're not going to make a huge loss, because if you sell, well, let's just say, I'm gonna get my calculator up again. If you sell at let's just say 120 a night times 21 nights, that's 2,500. Minus the 600 cleaning. Okay, you might be making a £580 loss. But that's better than making £2,000 loss. But that's just the kind of a bad scenario that you have to plan towards as well, because these things may happen and you might have to undercut. And again, if your rent is too high, and your utilities you can't change, but if your rent and utilities, your expenses are too high comparing to what you can get on a nightly rate, then this is a bad deal. You don't want this deal because it just doesn't stack. So, for example, I just had a recent client that was asking me if I would be interested to take on their property, and they had a 1-bedroom. No, it was a studio flat by the Birmingham coach station, and they're paying £900 including bills. And I said, okay, so you can get an apart hotel in Birmingham city centre for probably about £70 a night. So, the competition is so high with the new developments that are happening, that guests would prefer to go to a brand new apart hotel for £70 a night rather than go to a not so high standard studio. But even if we do, even if we were to sell at £50 a night times 21 nights, that's only 1,050. That's
It's not much of
that
a
you can't
profit,
clean the property. You're not going to make money, even if you
You're
sell
not
at
making
seven.
anything on that.
Yeah, so like £60 a night. If we're competing with apart hotel, £70 a night times 21, 1,470 minus 900, minus maybe, let's just say again, 6 cleanings in the month times £50. You're not making money on a 1-bedroom. It's very hard, or like a studio.
Yeah, and that's why it's such great advice from you. You have to do your research, you have to run the numbers, you have to go on these platforms where you can actually get a bit of a forecast. Like it's average numbers, but when you're on platforms, that have data, for that particular area, dating back, I don't know, 10, 20 years. Some of these platforms that you mentioned, like Airbnb or AirDNA, they are paid subscriptions. So we do have to mention that. They're quite limited in terms of what you access for free. But then if you know what area you want to start running Airbnbs in, you could pay for access to that specific area, can't you? And then you have to run your numbers. Don't just dive into this blindly. I think it's brilliant how you've broken down how to work out, your costs. So your rent, you obviously got to take that out, your utilities, your cleaning and linen, and then understand, what you're going to be left with if you're running at even 50%. I think it's always good to run it at 50% occupancy. Have a look at what you're going to make.
Yeah.
Doesn't make sense, scrap that deal. But 50%, how do you've probably got a deal analyzer, right? Because there's an Excel spreadsheet, that I know we've got. Did we give that to you? You obviously got that from the program.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. So that's very handy.
That's something that you can just pop some numbers in. I think, what is it? Just whatever the rent is.
Yeah.
and then it breaks down all the costs for you
It's
in
great.
terms of
It's
occupancy
a
and what you're
great
going to
tool
make.
to then use to
Mm,
showcase the potential
mm,
outcome to the owner or to
yeah,
um, yeah, just to the owner as well. Because what I wanted
yeah,
to add on top of this is, okay, if we're doing like a rental arbitrage, then yeah, we're gonna have to account for the rent and utilities. Whereas, if we
mm,
do a different strategy as well, then we can kind of adjust the amount of rent we pay. So like, there are other strategies like, maybe co-hosting or other alternative routes.
you do a bit of co-hosting, don't you?
Yeah, so I
Yeah.
actually started off my business by doing co-hosting. Some people call it, essay management. So I was able
Mm.
to,
So what does that look like? Can you explain for someone who had no idea what co-hosting is,
sure. So
what
it's
that actually
like
is?
when instead of you, you meet the landlord, or let's just say you meet the landlord, and instead of offering him rent per month for his property, you're offering him um, to benefit from your business as well. So let's just say you will manage the property for the landlord for however long it's needed and wanted, and let's just say the property is making maybe £6,000 in a month. You will take a commission out of this revenue, pay the cleaners, pay for any expenses that happen during the month, and then the rest goes to the landlord. So it's kind of like a win-win situation for the co-host and also for the landlord, because
Mm,
the co-host is winning because he's profiting from managing the property, and also the landlord is winning because he's achieving more money than he could potentially be getting on a rental arbitrage. However,
mm,
of course, the host, like the company, will be made most likely the profits will be lower than on a rental arbitrage. That's what I found from doing some kind of calculations. It works out in my area about half of the profit. So, if I
mm.
could make, on one property, maybe £500 profit, if I was doing a rental arbitrage, I would probably make 1,000. But then again,
Mm. Depending what your management fee is too, right? Because
hmm
there are some management companies out there that charge 20%. Well, I
of
think that's
course,
kind of the minimum average at the moment. So
yes,
you're at least covering not only expenses, but actually making something on top.
yeah, that's true. I mean, the thing is, in the UK, the management companies I would twist it a little bit. The landlords are not very happy to pay a lot of their revenue. If I,
Mm, of course.
2 years ago, just to get my business up and running, I was offering 10% plus a fixed fee. So I would offer
Mm,
10% plus £65 management fee. Just to get, £65 was to cover my bills, cover my expenses for running, Guesty and the other platforms, and then the 10% would
mm,
just to kind of give me some profit. But now we're charging 15%. That's including VAT. And when I say that our management fee is 15%, the landlords tend to kind of say, "Oh, that's a lot." And I'm like, well, that's not actually a lot, but I understand that like in America, like we have a good friends in North Carolina, and
mm,
I believe they charge 20-25%, and that's the norm. Like
mm,
people are happy to pay 20
mm.
25%.
It just depends on what you're presenting to them. So, you mentioned before, I think it's important to state, you're sharing a deal analyzer with a landlord. If you're in the position of wanting to co-host with them or manage their property with them, then you're obviously sharing, a couple of tools, and you want to obviously present yourself in the best light, show your professionalism, show what you can offer in terms of taking on that property for management. Then a tool like a rental analyzer is helpful to a landlord because then you can break down the costs and if you've done your research, when low seasons are going to happen and when the high seasons are going to occur, and then you're obviously presenting that too, and it does appeal to a landlord because they obviously want to maximize. Well, who doesn't want to make as much money from their property as they can,
Yeah.
And so I think that's where co-hosting can work if you're up for doing the work
Mm-hmm.
of actually managing
Yeah.
and managing well. Like, you need to know what you're doing before you step into that as well.
Yeah,
And
you're putting your reputation on the line as well.
Mhm.
When if you're managing well, it's fine. If you're taking action, if there is a drop in demand, and the landlord will see it. He has access to guests. He will see, like, he'll give you a call saying, Jacob, what's happening? We've not been getting bookings. Like, is everything okay? They're gonna be worried because it's their mortgage on the line. It's their utilities on the line as well. So
Yeah.
they've got the risk, but they have a bigger reward as well because they're working with us. So we are, like, recently we hired like revenue and pricing consultants, and these
Great.
guys are actually a part of, well, yeah, a part of your team as well. So they are an amazing bunch as well. So we've hired them to help us to automate, not automate, to create the pricing strategy, the revenue
Yeah.
strategy, and also to optimize all the listings. And
Hmm.
we've seen a big increase. But not only
Hmm.
that, I had a phone call from my a landlord recently, yesterday actually, and he was like, "Hey Jacob, what's happening with the bookings? Why are we getting so many bookings?" And I'm like, "Well, I'm glad that you're seeing
Why are we getting so many bookings? What a
positively."
great position to be in.
I know. I was like, "Why are we getting so many bookings?" I'm like, "Well, thank you for the feedback. I'm glad that you've noticed." And he's like, "What's going on?" And I'm like,
Man,
"Well, this happened. I've hired these people. They are experts in the area. So, we're definitely not
you
saving."
just look that much better. You look so much better in that light to him now because you've done what you needed to do to
Mm,
ensure that he's
yeah.
he's making money.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
crucial. It's crucial to invest in the business to make sure that their clients are happy,
100%.
because it will cost you so much money if you lose a client.
Uh-huh.
They might not even come back to you. Like, it could be,
Hmm.
you might lose maybe £500 profit per month, but maybe 2 or 3 years down the line, this could turn into 3 properties, 4 properties, depending on how the landlord does. And maybe he wants more properties on
Hmm.
Airbnb. He wants to build a relationship with
Hmm.
you. Same with
Hmm.
rental arbitrage. Like, if you rent a property and you do it, the agent or the landlord is getting, paycheck after paycheck every month for 3 years, he will trust you. He's gonna give you another property, and then he will offer you a block of 56 flats, because he
Hmm.
trusts you. Um,
Yeah.
so it's all about trust and respect, and that's what very important in the business.
A lot of hard work as well.
Yeah, of course.
It's
On the
not for the
side.
faint-hearted. Yeah, exactly. That's why people need. This is great. This is the whole purpose of this podcast, really, because it's insight into what the realities are when it comes to running your Airbnb business, whether that be um, getting rental arbitrage deals, whether that be co-hosting. Nothing worth having comes easy, right? So it does takes quite a bit of work on your part. And so, Jacob, I really appreciate you going so in depth and in detail so that people understand what it really takes. So it's brilliant. I really appreciate you sharing that. And let's talk about some of the challenges you've had, because I like that you kind of talked about the landlord who called you and said, "Oh, this is amazing, so many bookings coming in." So that's definitely like a plus and a high. But then we all know about the lows. There's always the challenges that come, particularly, with guests. You just sometimes never know
Yeah.
what type of guest you're going to get. And you have a really interesting story, which we'll share some of the photos that you've shown me, and I just couldn't believe what
Yeah.
happened. But yeah, do you want to share about that particular incident?
Yeah, I mean, there is, just like you said, there is the good things and the highlights, and being all happy because you're winning.
Mm.
But then there can be some crazy stories that happen, and just I will mention about all of them in just a second. But like, it did take me probably about 2 years to build a thick skin, and then kind of just to be able to handle the amount of like issues that can happen, and then just be like, oh yeah, it's just another day another day in the office. Uh, like, for example, I'll just give you some examples, and the example you mentioned about where I can share some pictures, is we had recently a booking from booking.com, I believe, or booking.com. The guest went through our guest verification. She paid a deposit, photo ID, and everything. So we didn't really think much of it. Then, I think she booked for 2 weeks, and around maybe a week in, we getting a phone call from another guest, and she's saying, "Oh, I think you guys have rats in the building. That's in the block of 13 studio." So, the guest calls up and she says, "Oh, I think you guys have rats in the studio, in the building, because I can hear scratching noises in the wall." And I'm like, "Okay, sure. Can you just send us a video of like, and maybe you can record the audio?" And I was like, and she sent them. So, and it's a loud kind of scratching noise, as if like a rat is eating out a drywall or something. And I'm like, hold on, like this is okay. So I send the video to the landlord, and he sent someone to have a look at it, like, the pest control. And I also had a painter and decorator going through the flats and painting and decorating, because we just wanted to
So
refresh.
you had someone on site. Yeah,
Yes.
someone was already on site.
Yeah,
with all
yeah.
this
So
noise going on.
we had someone
Yeah.
on site doing the work, because we were preparing for the warm season, May, June, July now. And he was going just door to door and painting the rooms. And I obviously gave him a list of the empty rooms, empty studios, but for some reason he did knock on a room that was occupied, and it was actually occupied by the lady that booked, from booking.com for 2 weeks. And she opened the door, and he went in, and he noticed that the floor panels are completely ruined in the studio. And what I mean by ruined, she literally just tear the floor panels from the floor, and I don't know what she'd done with them. So it's kind of like a vinyl flooring, and she just ripped them off.
Yeah.
And she's
Just rip them up
yeah, so she would just,
with
I don't
her
know
bare
how,
hands.
but it basically half of the studio, half of the room had the floorboards just like torn off the floor. And I'm getting the pictures from the painter, and I'm just like, he says, "Oh, the floorboards are like the lady ruined the floor." I'm like, "What do you mean? Like, what happened?" And then he sent me a video of what happened, and I'm just like, "Come on, like how, like what on earth,
How on
and how is
earth
this
has
even
she done
possible?"
this?
So,
Yeah.
long story short, the painter went and bought some floor panels and fixed the floor. Luckily, that
Did you
was,
kick her out first?
of course, the police came.
Yeah.
The police
Okay, you
came.
got the police involved.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the police kind of took her into custody for something else as well that she was up to.
Oh gosh.
So she was taken away. We charged her the deposit so we can cover some of the costs, and then the room was, well, we changed the lock on the door. Gave the new key, and just restart the next. As soon as it was back in, the floor was fixed, and we sent the cleaner in, and the cleaner cleaned, and then back and running. So that's just one of
My
the stories.
God.
That's not even like,
Yeah.
that's not that
That's
bad.
one of how many?
That's not that bad.
You got a few. You got a few.
Yeah, so that's just one. I mean, with the studios, but just very
Would
quick.
that be one of your worst? Would you say that was one of your worst guest experiences?
Not at all.
Really?
That was like, that's like nothing happened.
That one's pretty bad. Gosh,
So
you've had worse than that.
yeah. So like I can tell you very
Give
quickly
us one more. That like the
one more.
absolute worst one, if it's appropriate to share. I
Okay,
don't know.
well, I can I
You'll be
can
the judge of that.
I can just do one very quick one, and then I can go into the main one if you don't mind, because I was just go
Go,
into
please
this
do share
this
share the realities
the
of
let me
running
touch base on the
Airbnbs, please.
Stoke-on-Trent, and then I'm
Mm,
gonna give you another example in Birmingham. So Stoke-on-Trent, another
let's go.
I think that was Christmas Day. I'm getting a phone call from the cleaners. They go in the
Oh, Christmas
property.
Day.
Yeah, very like yeah, this year. Yeah, last year. And then the cleaners go in the property and they say, "Hey Jacob, like all the keys are missing from the master key safe." And I'm like, "What? Like how on earth, right?" And then I'm just like, "Oh God, I really hope there is like no major damages or things like that." So
This
the
is the studios again,
yeah.
Stoke-on-Trent.
So I'm
Oh my
like,
word.
so I
Okay.
tell the cleaners, right, just go into every single room and see what happened. And long story short, all so 10 out of 13 studios were affected, and all 10 had like TV stolen, microwaves,
Oh
kettles,
no,
toasters, every like they basically just like emptied the studio. So we had to like just, you know, and some of the TVs were like ripped off the wall, not just like and just so we because all of them were like TV mount fitted. So
whoa.
yeah, that was that. So that took us probably about 2 weeks to recover. Because we had
How did they even get access to the master? What was it? The master lockbox with all the
yeah.
master keys. I'm
Yes,
like, was it an inside job? Do you think? I'm like, who knew
no,
where all
it's
the
a
master
tricky one.
keys were?
Yeah, it is actually
Mm.
a tricky one. We don't fully know what happened. But it was definitely a
Oh.
case where a guest checked into the apartment and was sorry into the studio, and they saw the setup and they saw an opportunity to steal. So initially, yeah, we would have like a TV getting stolen like here and there. That was like just a routine thing. So that
Did you have cameras set up? Do you have
yeah. So
cameras set up there?
the cameras was set up. However,
Mm.
the strange thing was that the cameras went live only like within maybe half an hour after they left. So
Oh, come
it's
on.
very strange.
Were you insured? All the stuff.
No, not insured.
Oh,
But
Jacob,
that's
my gosh, that was just last year.
yeah, that was last year. So since then we increased the security at the property and just making well as much as you can make sure to get good guests in, but you can never predict who's coming in. But that was stressful.
Oh, that must have set you back. Yeah.
Yeah, that was
So
about
stressful.
yeah, probably about 3 grand, £3,000 setback. Plus, obviously, I'm not even
Wow.
accounting for 1 or 2 weeks of not, no bookings because of the labor.
Yeah, pretty much getting them all set up again. So they stole, yeah, like all the appliances, basically, like everything that was just like
Yeah,
easy and quick
literally.
to
Yeah,
to get in and
yeah,
take. Wow. So 10, you said 10 out of 13
yeah.
studios
Luckily,
and stuff was
they
stolen out of.
didn't go
Gosh.
into studios when there were other people in there because then that could cause even more problems, right?
Mm. Yeah. So again, the police were involved with that one.
Yeah.
Did they get caught?
I think so. Yeah. The police is quite good over there. So like, I'm
Yeah.
on good terms with the police in Stoke-on-Trent. They call me all the time.
It's just, yeah, that particular area. Is it? I know, I don't remember Stoke-on-Trent not being known as a bad area.
Yeah.
Um,
It's just the area.
so I mean, it was just targeted, I
Yeah.
guess. But then it's like you said, after that incident, you then increased, security measures
Yeah.
and whatever else, and
Yeah. Exactly.
that's just so unfortunate.
Well, it's just a
That
part of
just
the
sucks.
business. So,
Yeah.
you just have to just roll with it. And the landlords that I work with
Mm,
as well,
mm,
they are very understanding as well because, they've been in the business for a long time. So, they wouldn't say,
mhm.
Jacob, why did this happen? Like, how could you, allow this to happen? They would just say, okay, just don't worry, it's fine. These things happen. We understand. Just what can we do to minimize the risk of this happening again?
This is the thing, you live and you learn, right? From those experiences. My gosh. Did this happen before you joined the coaching program?
No, that happened a year later.
Oh, you did say only December. Yeah, not that long ago.
Yeah.
Oh my
So I've been
gosh.
on the
What did
pro.
James have to? Did James know about this?
I don't think so. I'm not sure. No, I don't
Uh,
think so.
oh my gosh, I can't believe that.
If we have another
Oof.
minute, I could tell you another story from Birmingham. But if we short on
We
time,
love the stories. Yeah. I mean, go for it. Why not? Share another one.
um,
Is it as bad as that one?
it's a different sort of crime.
Oh, okay.
So
Yeah.
basically,
Go
it's not
on.
going to be any drastic or anything, but well, slightly
Yeah.
drastic. Nobody died. All good. So basically, we there was a group of there was a birthday party girl that booked our 3-bedroom house in Birmingham, and we were
Mm.
quite concerned with the booking, but the girl seemed really nice on the phone. She, again paid the deposit and everything. And yeah, she said she's gonna have about like maybe six or seven friends coming over just to enjoy the birthday and so on. And I'm getting a phone call from the landlord about maybe 1 in the morning, saying
Oh
that he checked the
no.
CCTV and there is a bunch of like people inside the house, and you know, next thing you know, we can see in the camera that there is like a knife fight literally happening in front of the house. Because Birmingham is quite known for these sort of crimes, and there was like
Mm.
two groups of, young men, just like attacking themselves with knives, machetes, and so on.
Out the front.
In
Oh my gosh, like out the front of the house.
well, not yeah, literally on the drive. They were like probably participants in the whole birthday party thing. So next thing you know, I have to call the police. The Crime Stoppers come. They kind of get everyone out the house. So that was
No.
that's just in a nutshell. Nothing happened. All of them were taken to kind of to the police station and interviewed
Yeah.
and so on, because it's a serious offense. So, but there was no major damages inside the property or anything like this. So we kind of
Mm. It happened
yeah,
outside.
yeah, yeah. But that's just something
Yeah. I mean,
something
this
new.
is why you need cameras installed,
Exactly.
honestly. Yeah. You just never know, right? You just never know what kind of guests you're going to end up having in your properties.
Yeah.
And that's why it's just, yeah, always good to have those security measures in place. Have ID verified. The matching. There's all sorts of platforms, and people thinking, oh, am I going to have to do this manually? No, there are platforms and apps and programs and all this sort of thing that you can use
Yeah.
to ensure that you know exactly who's staying there. Get the security deposit. A lot of people don't mind paying that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's often refundable. I
Yeah.
guess it depends where you're booking, really,
Yeah.
at the end of the day. But wow. Yeah, I mean we've got stories like that as well, but we are not going to keep everyone listening to a podcast for over an hour with all these stories,
Of
because we
course.
could go on for hours about them. But what's the plans for Yes Days? What are you wanting to achieve, even by the end of this year? What sort of goals have you got in mind? What do you want to do?
So I'm focusing on growing the client base, and also I'm
Mm-hmm.
thinking of creating a social media marketing campaign for
Mm-hmm.
acquiring already existing SA service accommodation businesses.
Mm-hmm.
So
That's huge,
yeah, so
yeah.
for example, I just got inspired because there are people out there that are hosts, and they are maybe a family or a couple that have been doing Airbnb. They became hosts, and maybe they are they wanting to retire. Maybe they don't want to kind of just close the business, shut the business down. Maybe they want to pass the business to someone else and have the money for their retirement, but they want to retire. They don't want to, as much as once you get everything automated and get your virtual assistants, you're pretty free, but you still have to do a lot of work in like maybe 1 or 2 hours a day just to make sure that everything is ticking along. So some of these people would like to retire and just hand everything off, no problem, no headache. So I would be looking for people like this, and I would like to acquire their business, to then just grow my portfolio this way, and this way I don't have to spend time in onboarding an individual property. I would be onboarding a whole portfolio of properties that are already performing on Airbnb, which will just minimize the amount of initial work I have to do with the property itself. And then talking about remote work, it's going to be a lot easier to onboard a business remotely because everything is already done and it's already virtual. So now, that's my main kind of strategy, and obviously getting a larger property now as well, so like 6 bedroom plus. But I took
that castle.
a castle.
You want that castle,
yes,
don't you?
a castle would be nice. Yeah.
Oh, that's really interesting. Your business, strategy. Because there are plenty of hosts out there who have their portfolio of say 10 properties and it's running really well. But like you said, I'm sure that there are people out there who are ready to kind of hand it over and just receive, the profit. Would it be sort of a structure where they're paying a management fee again? So it's a little bit like the co-hosting model, would you say?
Yeah. So I like to work with the landlord, with the investor, or I like to work with the person that I deal with. So I would give them a few options, or I would ask them what do they want. Like, do they want cash? Do they want a fixed income for the next maybe 20 years, or as long as the business is running? So in the ideal scene, of course, like let's just say the business is generating maybe 100,000 pounds a month, for example, in revenue. And then we can do like a revenue split where, let's just say, if they are charging, argument's sake, 20% management fee, if they are doing co-hosting, then we do like maybe 10, like 50-50 split, or maybe we offer them, okay, we will pay you £5,000 every month, no matter if we have high occupancy or low occupancy, depending on the season, or 10,000-20,000. So it could be either a fixed,
tailored to whatever the needs are
exactly.
for that particular client,
I think,
and what it is they're after.
I think that works best.
Well, I look forward to seeing that all unfold for you and how that goes along. And you'll have to keep us updated.
Yeah, thank you.
Sure.
I couldn't do it without you guys. So you guys been very helpful.
And the community and the team. What I love about this, it's a growing community as well. But you're also coaching.
Yeah. So I had the opportunity to become a coach for GPWN
just recently, right?
about 2 months ago. So I'm third month now, and it's been great. I get the chance to help people who just joined the program, to help them go through the program in the most efficient way, and to help them to secure their first property. And it's been very rewarding because I do see, like, within 2 months I've been working, I already see people getting the first unit, being very happy, and then, moving on to getting more properties and building successful businesses. I would say majority of the people that join the program have a very similar goal, which is financial freedom. And what's meant by financial freedom is, Monday morning, wake up, don't have to think about work, maybe do some mindfulness, maybe go to the gym, spend time with family, spend time with kids, and then do some actual work. So the freedom is definitely a big part in what the GPWN is offering.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a no-brainer for anyone that would like to join, because if you're after freedom, then financial freedom, or just any freedom,
time freedom,
family and everything, then it's a no-brainer. Airbnb and like short-term rental arbitrage could be just a vehicle to achieving this. So like you can obviously use different vehicles, but this is an trialed and tested way of achieving what you want to achieve. So I think, yeah.
I think you couldn't have ended that more brilliantly.
Thank you.
In terms of inspiring people out there who want to start and, they've got their reasons, that being perhaps time freedom, financial freedom, getting their foot in the property industry, and one of the ways to do that is by trying a rental arbitrage strategy and getting that cash flow, building that cash flow up. And there's so many examples of people having built up enough cash flow to then purchase assets. And what you're doing is setting up, generational wealth there when you start acquiring, properties and things that you can then hand down, as long as it's managed properly, of course. But I think, speaking of family as well, you're going to be a dad really soon.
Yeah, that's very
Aren't
true.
you?
So, we are expecting a baby in July. So, that's going to be very exciting.
It's not far away.
Yeah, only 2 months
Yeah.
away. So probably even less than 2 months now.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
So excited for you guys.
Yeah, just like I wanted to set up my business as well, to be there for for my kids as well, and for my wife. So
Yeah.
to have the freedom of not having to send my kid to a nursery or to primary school, and then come back from work at 6 o'clock, and then everyone's tired after that anyway. So having the freedom of like,
These are the realities of the choices you're going to be able to have that so many people don't have, and that is all due to the fact that you decided to step out and start a business and do everything that you can to ensure that you've got that time and freedom with your family and your soon to be first child. So
yeah.
Jakub, you're an inspiration at 30 years old. You've only just begun, in terms of you're an entrepreneur, businessman. The things that you've experienced and learned along the way and everything that you're building is phenomenal. And I can't wait to see the rest of it just unfold over time. And James and I we're looking forward to seeing everything that you build out and you accomplish. So keep going.
Yeah, thank you.
You're doing so well.
Thank you. I really appreciate this as well. The knowledge and experience that you gave me, and James and the whole GPWN team has been, priceless. So yeah, I appreciate your time as well.
Oh, you're so welcome. Thanks again for coming onto the show. And that's been another episode of Behind the BNB with Jakub from Yes Stays. So what we're going to do, Jakub, is put your website up as well. So if anyone is ever in the UK, in Birmingham, Stoke-on-Trent specifically, what's the website where people can, go and book a stay?
So it's yesstays.co.uk.
Perfect. And then have you got the Instagram set up yet?
It's set up. Yeah, you can find me on Instagram. It's not much on there at the moment, but it's yes.stays.
Yes.stays. So there you have it. And Jakub, again, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thanks, Stephanie. Thanks for having me.
So don't forget to like and subscribe. And if you know anyone who is interested in starting a business, a side hustle, or building an Airbnb business themselves, do share this episode and others with them. And don't forget to join us next week for another new guest from our incredible community of students at GPWN. This has been Behind the BNB. Hope you enjoyed the show.